What about this?
I know, I heard, man. Like you just bike too hard.
Something. Maybe too clumsy.
Welcome, everyone. A familiar face of Ermin is probably not going to be here today. He's probably still driving west, um, making the move to San Francisco, actually. Um, I'm glad so many people could join. I have a bit of an agenda, but it's fairly short, so I can go through it and then we can kind of see what else people are interested in talking about. Um, some of the biggest thing happening this week and in the last week has been the publishing of smart apps on the smart app platform. Basically, community focused or community submitted smart apps are now being published into the wild and the public. And so we'll go over some of that. There's a bunch of them that are pending, including, I think, a few from some people on this call. No device types yet, although we're very close to some new device types being published through the new system as well. We have a Arduino Shield promo that I'd like to run by people to see if there's any interest. And then I was hoping to do some sort of a roundup of some of the most discussed or the biggest discussion points on the community site in the last week. So, and whatever anyone else wants to talk about. So, how's that sound? All right, I will try to follow along on the thing. Hey, someone's actually in here as Blue Jeans. Who is that? Eves is in twice, so you're two people today. Sounds good. All right. And since Berman's here, maybe I'll make you say something about what you're working on these days. Yeah. I don't want to discourage you from coming, but we're so short on developers these days, primarily because there's just so much going on with the platform. We're doing some big scalability tests. We're doing some work on new smart app stuff. The Android stuff is going, so it's really hard to pull developers into this. But hopefully, help is on the way. We are hiring a bunch. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm kind of all over the place right now. I don't know that specifically working on a lot of stuff that's public at this point yet, but I am doing a new Zigbee firmware that should come out here pretty soon, hopefully, and adding some more sockets to like the main processor on our hub so that you can do more LAN devices and maybe even like a light socket type thing, so you could leave a constantly open one and not have to be eating as much resources on that small processor.
So you're doing some things that even before Hub v2, there could be some things that happen on the current hub just with firmware.
Yep. Trying to make it so it runs as clean and as fast as possible.
All right. Sounds good. I will. We mentioned some of the publishing stuff. If you were on the call 2 weeks ago, you basically got the very first look at the submission process for submitting new devices or smart apps in the IDE. Some of you guys have taken advantage of that and submitted some things. The first one that came through and actually got approved was by a company called Square Hub. They were published yesterday, and you can find it in the labs area right now of smart things within the mobile app. Kind of cool. It's sort of like a private social network for families, and they did the integration completely on their own. There's a couple other ones that I'm just looking at right now in terms of like where they are in the process of approval. I expect them all to be approved soon. But there's one from Brian with about regarding Whole House Fan. I think that's been on the community site a bit. That's a cool one. There's also one called Dry the Wet Spot, which I find humorous. And it has to do with basically when there's moisture detected in a sump pump situation. I believe I have to look at it. And then Smart Windows, which is an app that would alert you when the outside temperature, or basically when you should open your windows because it's nicer out, and to like air out your house without air conditioning. So I mean, just cool examples of things that are coming through from you guys being published in them. There's also some interesting things in the community site. I just saw there's a lot of action on this garage door opener with the MyQ garage door opener. I don't know. I think that's from Chamberlain. But there's been a lot of activity on that. I think like 70 posts on the MyQ garage door type device type. Some people have really good success with that on their garages. I mean, the other big topic of discussion on the community site this past week has obviously been HomeKit and what SmartThings can or can't do with it. We had someone out at WWDC, and they're in all the HomeKit sessions, and there's still some questions as to like how Apple's going to do stuff or what they're planning. They did have a bit about remote access, but there's no hardware right now that they pointed to that like shows them how, or shows the world how they're going to actually do that. Everyone's expecting it to be Apple TV or something like that, or maybe in like the Airport Extremes. But right now they don't have a way for when you're away from your house to do that. So we're looking at that, and I could probably provide a little bit of a rundown on some things from one of the developers if it was interesting. Let me see here. I've got a question from Eves. Triggering events via the lock screen is the only thing I care about. The Siri stuff is nice too. Well, yeah, I mean, triggering events from the lock screen, I think it can be done without HomeKit. Siri, on the other hand, it looks like they're only going to provide access to Siri through HomeKit right now. And so, I mean, yeah, widgets. I think the hardest thing for us is right now we have multiple like agents, like iPhone, Android devices. There's some like tablet test stuff going on, but we have all these like endpoints that can use SmartThings, but they all go to the one data management layer, the cloud service, and it's by and large agnostic at that point. Once we start to like do some custom things for HomeKit, then it starts to become like touchy with regard to like, all right, well, we have to run two sets of the code base in the cloud to be able to handle things differently for Android than iOS. If it's a mixed family, there's questions about like, if one person adds something via iOS and HomeKit, is it going to be accessible to people who use the Android device? And we can't answer those questions yet quite easily. So, there's way more questions than answers on that. I think by and large, we believe as a company that Apple announcing HomeKit to developers is a good thing, because it probably points to either next fall or spring, they're going to start talking about the technologies to consumers. And I think the more people who learn about, how cool it is to like automate your home, I think it's going to be better. I got a few more questions here. Greg says he uses an iPad and an Android phone at the same time, so cross-platform is important. And then I'm sure Google will have something at Google I/O. Sure. Yeah. I mean, if not Nest related, then something else. I've heard that through the grapevine that they had a pretty large team working on a home automation platform prior to the Nest acquisition. Something like 50 people for a year and a half working on just that, and then they scrapped it all right before they bought Nest. So I'm sure they're going to have something going there, and hopefully we'll just be in the middle, being able to be agnostic of all of that. All right. Let's see. I'm trying to think of what other roundup things from the community might be interesting. We're contemplating. We're probably going to just release tomorrow or later today a little promo for Arduino shields. If people are interested in that, I think we're going to say you can get 2 shields for $65 or something like that, or a shield and a hub for or 2 shields and a hub for 150. I'm wondering if you guys would think someone to gift something to, or you give a hub and 2 shields to someone, or you just give someone a hub and keep the shields. Is that interesting at all? Who's doing any shield work? There's a cat these days. I know that Gilbert was on and he wanted a couple more shields. Okay, Eve's just started doing a little Arduino work. Cool. Eric is joining us now. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm because we don't have access to many other developers. I don't know many more questions or deep dives we can do, but I'd love to field more questions and see if I can give answers. Things about the roadmap, things about community site. All right. Desktop app was a question from Eves. Yeah, so tomorrow I'm in a meeting with product team and the design team, and we are talking about tablet apps. We're talking about desktop apps. We think we have kind of a paradigm for what a desktop app would look like. I think we're going to take a baby step towards it very soon with a redesign of the IDE site, for lack of a better word, but basically making the IDE site a bit more user-friendly for general consumers, but then kind of splitting off the developer tools in a way. I think that we could get somewhat of the way there, even with some of the things that we've got now online, and having a web-based version. And then as far as a desktop version, surprisingly, I think we might see something like a Windows thing before we see a Mac thing. Although we could see, I could see doing something. A lot of these new apps are just sort of run in a shell, and they're actually like web apps, almost in a shell. So I could maybe see something like that. I would hate to distract our iOS team from doing mobile and tablet to do some sort of a Cocoa app, or I guess now is it all going to be Swift? So we'll see. But I think that there will be. It's just a matter of when, and I think maybe even after tomorrow I'll have more of an answer of when. Matthew's saying I used a security app called Orbicule Witness. I'm probably not saying that right, for security with a webcam before I switched to SmartThings. All right. And then Pierre is asking if it's been discussed what an iPad app is definitely needed. So yeah, you joined right as we were talking about desktop app. I think tablet app kind of goes along with that discussion. It's sort of like, exploring different form factors and what we can do specific to each of those. I think a desktop app looks much different from the mobile app. I think an iPad app is sort of a hybrid um, version, but I think that we don't want to just make it be a bigger version or a more data dense version of the mobile app. We would like to have it have its own distinct characteristics. Okay, so yeah, I'm pretty familiar with Fluid, how you can just like take any web app and make it be like a desktop app. So that's definitely a possibility as well. If we could just get basic grouping and actuation and some of the things, like basically repeat the things view within the web, I think that would be a good step forward. All right, another question about Dropcam integration. Is it me, or is the official word from Dropcam wasn't so happy about the SmartThings integration? So they did just open up an API, or at least they announced a beta version of their API to which you can sign up and get access to. We have signed up for the Dropcam official beta API, and I think more than anything, they don't want an event to happen in the press that says Dropcam was hacked and someone was able to see videos inside someone else's home. So they were protective of the way that we were basically authenticating with Dropcam. They didn't provide an OAuth authentication mechanism. They didn't do some of the things that we would expect companies to do. And so we actually stored credentials on our side, encrypted, but they just weren't happy with that. And I think that there's also a little bit of competitive friction, because I think Dropcam wants to be sort of in this space in a bigger way, as is evident by their like tabs devices and things like that. But I think this is a good thing that they're opening up their API, and we'll be able to see what we can get to more. Like maybe we'll be able to use the Dropcams as motion detectors, as one example. Another example might be turning on and off the Dropcam more easily. I know that there's been some people who've written some custom code to do that and posted it on the community site, but being able to do that, turning it off and on at different times is nice. And then now there's a question about Nest. I don't know, word from Nest. They said that their API was going to open up the early part of 2014.
They're running out of early.
Have 4 more days, maybe, I don't know. And so Nest, is another one where I think, their timelines got all changed when Google bought them. And I'm sure prior to the Google acquisition, there was months of disruption to what they were doing. And so, I still expect that, and I expected even more with Google, but they're probably taking a different approach now. So, and then, with the Nest and the Protect, I think it's similar. They're going to be more cautious, I think, because of what's happened with the Protect and the recall. Brian just said he spoke with a Nest rep, and they said that the Google acquisition had no impact on their timelines. Yeah. So like right now, when, we have partner discussions with different companies, we pull in a half a dozen developers sometimes into these like deep dive discussions. I just don't see how they couldn't have an impact. I know that Nest had 400 people and we have like 50, but I'd say, yeah, it's disruptive in just that it's like, you're not paying it full attention to things. So yeah, I think Nest and Protect, both of the devices are going to open at some point in some way. Nest hasn't ever turned on their Zigbee chip. I would expect them to do that in the next year and have that device act as a hub of some sort. And then, Yves, before I get to your next question, I also wanted to kind of throw out there, what did people think about the new Honeywell device that sort of like, looks like Nest that used to look like Honeywell, or whatever. I think it's called the Lyra or Lyric. It's a decent looking device. I kind of like, some aspects of it more than Nest. They try to take an approach that's more like SmartThings, where they don't try to like have a motion detection, seeing to tell if you're in the house. They actually use presence with like a geofence. You could obviously do it in a few other ways with a bigger system like SmartThings.
I find that more and more I'm looking for devices that can do a lot, but I end up programming all the smart, into SmartThings. I have a Nest. Well, I don't use any of its cool features.
Yeah, it's funny because we used to say like, we purposely didn't develop devices that were very smart. Most of our devices have the bare minimum amount of intelligence at the device level, and then we have the most amount of flexibility to build the intelligence like up in the cloud or whatever. But so that's exactly right. We look at, when I go to look at the coffee makers or whatever at the store, I want the dumbest one possible. I don't want anything with timers and whatever else. And I think it's somewhat true with some of these other things, because the Nest, that stuff can just sort of interfere with how you want it to work at times. But yeah, we'll see how that goes and how much intelligence these devices will ultimately have. So let me just answer Yves' question first, if I can. So, an app for Pebble. I'm assuming that you've seen some of the like quick demos and things from the Pebble that we posted probably 6 months ago now, almost. I think that there maybe was a bit of code out there to get started on doing like Pebble notifications. Look up on that would be Juan, who did one, and then Kyle, who's an internal team member of ours, Kyle Leno. But I'll see if I can like dig some of that Pebble stuff up, and then also see, as far as an official thing goes. Like you said, it's probably a lower priority, but I think it's kind of interesting anyways.
Yeah, you can already do a lot of things using the endpoints and using SmartWatch Plus already.
So SmartWatch Plus, is that something that, where is that?
I think that's the right app. It allows you to just use HTTP requests to use the endpoints, so that you're basically you're just sending requests through your Pebble or via your phone through Pebble. I'll try to post a link on the chat.
Okay.
I think I already beat you to it.
I just
Nice.
Do you have a Pebble, Berman?
I had a Pebble. I don't know where it went. If you've ever seen my desk has lots of things on it, and things come and go. So I think somebody else is using it right now.
Okay. So Pierre, you've got a couple things you're mentioning. First was what's in the pipeline for the near future as far as updates go for SmartThings in general. And your second question, add a new trigger in SmartThings when acceleration stops. Yes. So you mean specifically in the app when acceleration stops versus like writing your own smart app when acceleration stops? Because I was just pointing a few people in the direction of a few apps that did just that, where it's like, do something when acceleration starts and then stop doing that thing when it stops. But yeah, I mean, I get frustrated, and I assume you guys get even more frustrated, but I get frustrated when you can do one thing with SmartThings, but you can't do the inverse easily just with the app. You'd have to like go in and like modify a smart app. I understand why we've done that. We take the top use cases and try to cover like 70% of those easily without adding a lot of the complexity by adding in like the more edge use cases. But for those of us who really want to try to like use SmartThings in a lot of different scenarios that we haven't even thought of, I get the frustration. I will put the acceleration stopping thing to some higher attention in the product team just to see what we can do on that. And then as far as just general pipeline things, I mean, obviously the Android team is like cruising on trying to get the latest, basically what we're calling smart setup code into the Android app. I mean, I'm running Android with that in it. It's fairly close. We wanted to post it. We wanted to get it to the Play Store by the end of this week, but I think that is going to slip. But I don't think it's going to slip past next week. So we're doing that. What else is in the pipeline that I can think of now? I mean, there's at some point, probably August, where the devices themselves, the end devices, are going to get a refresh. There's going to be new external packaging. Some of them will have different functionality than some of the current ones now. I think that there's cost pressures. I think in this very short term, some of the prices in the shop might actually go up. But then I'm hoping that in August, some of them will come back down again. So, yeah, there's a lot of moving parts to all of this. Like, we have to, I don't know, it's just really just difficult to like coordinate all these things, especially when we only have like 1 or 2 retail channels. But as soon as we start to get more, it's even more difficult, and all the different pricing and things. I'm just trying to catch up on the chats as I talk. So Eves, can triggering URLs using the endpoints, is that basically a follow-on to something, or what are you asking about there?
I think it's for the Pebble.
For the Pebble, okay. All right. Getting to Brian, getting notifications in the Pebble pushover would be handy for me. Don't care as much about triggering events. All right. I've seen a little bit of pushover, but not too much. And then Greg said, if acceleration happens twice in a period of time, I mean, like, you guys have to understand, like, sometimes, the line has to be drawn in favor of like simplicity in the app, and the people who want the more sophisticated stuff are either going to have to use something like the aforementioned Rule Builder, although I hate to keep mentioning it, but having it not like be available, but the Rule Builder, or into the code and writing smart apps. We might see Rule Builder. Right now, it's tough to say if a Rule Builder happens first on the web or first in the mobile apps. We actually have seen a prototype in the mobile app before we've done any sort of web testing of it, but I don't know. It seems just still a little bit too complex from a UI perspective to do it in there, and maybe doing it on a web interface would be better. Catching up. I would like to see additional Sonos integrations such as grouping, ungrouping. Man, I am like so with you on there. I have 4 Sonoses, which is not at all is comparable to some of the other people. I just saw someone post on the community site, maybe it was you, who had 12 Sonoses showing on their screen, and someone commented like, "You've got 12 Sonoses," and they were like, "No, this is only 12 fit on the screen. I've got many more." I'm like, wow, that is crazy. But for me, my biggest use cases for Sonos right now involve weather in the morning, and I've got it geared toward, when I open the refrigerator first thing in the morning, it plays it. I want it to only play on my kitchen one, but it plays on the whole house if they're grouped. And even if we ungroup them, then they don't regroup themselves. So I'm with you on Sonos additional integrations. They also don't have a great API, but we've got a new contact now for a Sonos developer that can help us through some things. So we're hoping to be able to leverage that. A person directly from Sonos. All right. All right. Pierre had to run. Greg's trying to write his own smart app. Not good. Documentation's not good enough for someone who's never done it. I agree. I have tried. I'm not quite the developer that I should be. I can muck around with other people's apps and change them to what I want, but writing groovy code myself is not something that I usually do. And yeah, unless you're planning on learning groovy and like doing that sort of stuff, it is kind of daunting. So the second best thing you can do is come to these. You can make requests on the community site to see what people have done. And Brian just mentioned the IRC channel, which I have to remember to join a bit more because I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah,
I know that there's been at some point I even wonder if it exists still, but it's a good resource, I think. Exactly. Greg doesn't even know what IRC is.
I would at this point.
It's like a permanent chat room from like the 1990s.
I would actually at this point kind of urge all the developers within the community to kind of, as they write smart apps or as they kind of develop whatever project they're working on, to kind of document that as well and share that somehow. I know that previously we had, I believe it was projects on our old community forum. But that's a good way of everybody to kind of share amongst one another and really kind of grow the community and kind of grow knowledge as well too amongst one another.
And I'm still planning on migrating as much of that content as possible. What I would ask that people do in the meantime is post here in the projects category on the community. If it's just like sort of an idea, I mean, obviously you post it at other places, but I think that's going to be a great place to do it. And there's two ways to post there. One is, here's my project I'm working on, and here's the steps I'm going about it. And you don't have to have it be finished. You can have it be like a work in progress. And the other thing is like, maybe you're not a developer, but you've got a story of how you set up your house or how you're automating. I think that would be interesting to share as well. So obviously, for sure, share those stories. I think another interesting thing that's going to happen is we're starting to make much better use of GitHub, and we're only weeks away probably of like having all of the previously private smart apps that were smart things focused be available on GitHub, just to like you can fork them and edit them or whatever. You can still grab the code right now in the IDE, but I think there's going to be much more visibility to smart apps. I think it's just nicer to be able to like link directly to smart app and smart app code. I do like how the new forum handles those sorts of links, so I think that's really cool. Brian commented that the projects pages were, in my opinion, pretty lacking. I think most of us went to Git and shared those anyways. Yeah, exactly. And that's one of the reasons why I didn't shed a lot of tears when we migrated for the projects. I think there were a handful of projects that were really fleshed out. But I mean, I don't think many people wanted to have like another little blog to manage within WordPress. And so I think that going forward, it'll be better. Greg just said I wanted to add a push notification to notify me with Sonos. So yeah, you tried to do that and you couldn't. Right. I think that there are a few things about that we'd have to figure out. But I would say, search on the forums for Sonos related things and then post questions. I apologize. I have to be right back. I'm hoping that someone continues a little discussion. I should be like just a minute.
So what are you guys working on? Any nice projects out there?
Latest one for me was the Whole House fan.
What's that?
Turns on a switch. I've got a smart switch plugged into my vague excuse for a Whole House fan. It's like an attic fan. And so if the thermostat is off and the outdoor temperature is less than the indoor temperature, it'll turn on the fan. And
So
it'll cool the house down to a certain point.
You're trying to neutralize the temperature using the fan?
Instead of running the air conditioner.
Yeah. So I'm guessing you have a temperature sensor in the same room as well too.
Yeah, I've got the NetAtmo, which works. It's just not released yet. I've got many things like that. It also talks to the Nest thermostat, which isn't really released.
You get all the goodies for us.
Yeah, the one thing I've been looking at is ways to make it feel like more of a security system. So like at my grandparents' house, they can hit a button or whatever. I have some really bootleg ways just to switch modes right now. But trying to find a good like touchpad button that you could just do like having. Oh, it's kind of loud in here all of a sudden. Like so you could just type in a key code or something versus right now having them like turn on multi or using one of those Z-Wave key fobs. Yeah, I really want to build just a keypad button of some sort at some point.
Yeah, that's actually one of the projects I was previously working on, where I was trying to make my Arduino kind of like the hub or some sort of central screen with a bunch of buttons on there that can kind of help navigate the house without opening up the app, and other people within the household can kind of use that as well too.
Right. I mean, we do have that double tap on some of the Z-Wave switches where you can like hit up twice and then you can catch that event. So I've been using just some features of some of the hardware to try to like super obfuscated way of triggering an event, but
yeah, I like that though. I love double tap or using other physical devices to do things.
Yeah.
If some folks aren't familiar with double tap, you can kind of do things like, what I do is just like if I tap up on my lights, it'll just turn my kitchen lights on. But if I tap up twice, it'll turn my kitchen and my dining room lights on. And I think you can even extend it. And I haven't done it yet, but like triple tap would turn on like all lights in the house or whatever. You could have like a mode where if you triple tap something, it's like all on.
Yeah, it works better on some switches. It works better on some switches than others. Like I have a GE dimmer that it doesn't work well at all because I guess
found there's a cadence that you need. Like you need to give it a full pause before you try to like do it. But yeah, I can understand probably some of the dimmers aren't as good.
I actually like on this. I don't know if you see mine, but this is my backyard light, and I actually made this into my desk light just because it's easier to get to. So if I double tap this off, it should essentially turn off my desk light. Doesn't always work though. It doesn't want to work.
Yeah, I just
there you go.
There you go. I just got one of those like mini motes, and the wife is very happy with that. She is like, because every night I'd be like, tell the house good night. If you're gonna turn off a light, just say good night. And she's like, oh. And so now she just presses one button, and it's a hello home phrase.
Yeah, that's actually the best investment in my in all the devices that I've gotten.
Buttons, yeah.
Yeah, just you didn't hear it here, but get it on Amazon, not our shop.
But Ben didn't say that on recording.
Let's see. So there's a few other comments you guys have been going through. Point me in something if it hasn't been covered while I was gone. It looks like there's something about IP cameras again. I know, man, Foscam, if I would have bet anything, I would have bet Foscam would have been like our first camera and totally be out by like 2 months ago. I think it's just sort of fallen by the wayside as other priorities took over. But I think that will have a resurgence soon. What else?
Did you get this to work? I asked Ermin about this already.
Which one is that?
This is the ASPIRE switch I was talking about. It's a Z-Wave scene switch, I guess, or associated switch. So it's all battery operated, and you're supposed to be able to associate this with another Z-Wave device. I can get it to pair with the hub, but I don't know how to actually program this. I'm assuming I need a smart app to go with it as well. Ermin's supposed to be
Right.
working, but he doesn't.
And yeah, what Ermin's working on right now, driving across the country. So like he's been just sort of like AWOL for a bit, but I'm expecting big things next week as he gets settled in San Francisco out your way.
Oh, great. Yeah, see, this is how it looks like. So basically, it's battery operated, and it's really thin. So you can basically Velcro or stick this to the wall, and it'll act as another wall switch. So I was thinking about putting some TCP or some Philips Hue on the light above and use this to control it, so it really acts like a normal switch. Because I have no neutral wires in a big portion of my house.
No, that's very cool. I would appreciate that in a few of mine as well. Even just replacing, just like basically like folding up like an existing switch and not using it, and just using that in its place. But that's very cool.
Yeah, I just gave or showed that to Duncan, our Z-Wave guru over here too. I think he just thinks it needs a device type or something along those lines. So it probably should be pretty easy to add.
Yeah, the only way I can actually get any activity within the app is setting it as a controller. If I put it as a switch or any other Z-Wave device, I can't get any activity within the stream at least. So
yeah, I mean, I think that thing was originally made so that it would directly control a light, so that it would be like a controller, and then you would just hook it up. So
yeah, if you guys can help me out with that, that'd be great. I have 2 of these. I was gonna send one to Ermin, but he's like, no, just hang on to it. We can figure it out on our own without the device.
Do you have one there in Minneapolis, Berman?
I don't. I was actually just looking at buying one.
If you guys want, I'll send it to you. Just send it. I can put it on my wall afterwards.
No, just leave it out there. Ermin's gonna be out there. He can like look at it.
Yeah.
You guys can meet up. So, Eves, I'm interested in this SparkCore powered path lighting. Did you post anything on the community site about that? Has anyone else used SparkCore? I know you have, Gilbert.
Yeah, I played with it a little bit. There's not too much documentation on it, and it has a lot more going on than just using the ThinkShield. That I'm still trying to figure it out. Right now, I kind of backed off on it just because it's a little bit more than I want to investigate right now. I'd rather kind of get my prototype working on the ThinkShield and kind of migrate to the SparkCore afterwards. The SparkCore, the great thing about that is that it's really low energy. So if you're thinking about doing something battery operated, it's great. And it's really small as well too.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. I don't think you were on when I started this, but if you like, don't buy any more shields if you're buying any more, because we're doing a little more.
Say again? You broke up for a second.
We're doing just don't buy any more shields yet, because we're doing a little promo where you'll get a little discount.
Oh, great. Okay. I eventually want to get all my Arduinos to have a shield on top of it, so I'll wait on that.
Nice. It looks like Spark changed something in their firmware maybe that broke Eve's app he was working on, but he's in the beta for the latest, which is fixed now. So those guys are in Minneapolis as well, as our team, most of our engineering team, and so they're able to like potentially meet up and like whatever else. So that'd be kind of cool. You know, we tried to team up originally. We actually did a demo very early on when SparkCore was actually Spark devices, and they were going to be doing like a LifeX light bulb. That was their first thing, and that was their first like Kickstarter attempt. And we demoed their app or their light bulb with SmartThings on stage at a local event in Minneapolis, and it was pretty cool. I mean, I like those guys. Zach, the founder of the company, is I guess there's 2 founders named Zach, I think, but Zach Supala is a good guy. I would be lying if I said I didn't try to get him to join SmartThings instead of starting Spark, but Yeah.
Whoever's working on SparkCore, they should post a little bit of a documentation or whatever they're working on with the rest of the team. It'd be interesting to see what other people are building out there.
Yeah. Did anyone use that new Square Hub app? Anyone hear about it?
Oh, the family. I don't even know what that is. I've never heard of it prior to your announcement.
I don't think any of us here had either. And then they just came to us and were like, "Hey, we've got this thing," and they submitted it, and it was good enough to get through our process, and it was actually the first smart app, I guess, processed through. So yeah, that spigot is now open. You guys should all be looking at sharing the smart app work that you've done, and it'll literally, if you post it to like publish for everyone, we look at it. It might take a week or a couple days, hopefully not a week, and then we publish it, and it just shows up in the phone for everyone. It's kind of sweet.
You guys don't have it on your blog yet. I think I tweeted about it, but
did we not post a blog article about it? We have a draft. Maybe we're waiting for tomorrow about it. But if you go to their site, they have a blog post about it, and they kind of give you the steps to do it.
Yeah.
And it's on Twitter, and we tweeted it. I mean, basically, you just go to Labs and find it.
So it's something that they've done all on their own, without kind of help on your part.
But they didn't even talk to us beforehand. They were just kind of like, "Here you go."
Like Ivy all over again.
Yep. What else? Any other questions? All right.
Is there any announcements? Anything?
I don't know that you missed.
Anything coming up in Labs in the next few weeks?
Well, we're actually looking to deprecate. Well, that's not true. Even though Square Hub posted into Labs, like we aren't posting like new smart apps into Labs. They're going to go directly into the primary categories. One thing I will say for you smart app writers out there, like it'd be so much more amazing if you had if you submitted like your own icons. Like, and I know that that's like a lot to ask in some ways, but like we're gonna just have a ton of smart apps with all the like these default icons, and for our part, we're gonna try to get a few more icons that you can select from in there, but. Man, I think we're going to see a lot of like little gear icons and whatnot. So maybe you have to hit up your designer friends for little icons. But to back at the question, I think there is going to be, we have a goal of like trying to release a new thing in the Labs every week. This week's sort of been thrown into chaos with some operational and organizational things that we're doing right now, but we plan to like keep that going where we have a new device put in place and added into the mix all the time. I'm trying to think like what is next in the docket. I think it's NetAtmo, but there's probably a few other things. What am I missing?
Yay, NetAtmo.
Yep, it was in no small part to you. So let's see, what else? I mean, I don't know. I can't think of anything right now. Once things settle down around here, one of my like weekly goals is going to be to have a publicly presentable roadmap that we can just update weekly with like, here's the things that are coming this month. These are things that are coming in the next 3 months, because we want to be as transparent as possible about that stuff. And so, yeah, it's good. It helps us like stay honest. We've learned somewhat learned our lesson by talking about dates prematurely. But you'll still see Alex tweet about some date sometimes, and we all cringe internally. But yeah, we'll be sharing more of that stuff. And that's one of the main things of this call, is like to be able to like share with the developer community the things that we're working on, so that they can be excited and hopefully share that with other people they know or whatever. All right, people are posting a few more questions. Sorry. So all right, Eves is having a conversation about some things he's been sharing, but I wasn't following. Using a second location for geofencing was really helpful, that video. That's cool. People want to do that stuff all the time, and we've never been like very like clear, even like, okay, how is the best way to like tell people to do that? And then what else we got here? Oh, here's a JPEG. Something. Oh, that's pretty cool looking. Nice. And there's plans to go drinking being made during the call. So it's a typical call, I would say. Just a little bit less distracting from Ermin. We got to get Todd back on these. So here's another idea. I'm thinking that I kind of want to have this be the last call at this time, this 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern, in favor of a later call. I've asked the question before, and it seems that people have been more or less on board with it. But something in the 7 or 8 o'clock Eastern range to have it be a broader spectrum of the. Okay, so I guess a thumbs up there too. So that sounds good. I think we'll do that, and I'll announce it. I will say that these meetings are going to happen every other Wednesday at minimum. There's a question of whether or not we try to do them weekly or not, but every other Wednesday for sure, so you can count on it. And as soon as we set the time, that'll be the time, at least until we change it. But we'll try to do like it quarterly. If we have to change times, we'll do it quarterly. Otherwise, we'll just keep it at whatever time we pick. So that sounds good. All right, well, it was helpful. And maybe even at a later time, more people will be able to join with their faces. I just appreciate seeing people more than chatting, even though, chatting is fine as well. No, yeah, see, there you go, Berman. But if there's no other questions or things, I will probably close it down. People have a good week, good weekend.
Thanks, man.
All right, sounds good. See you guys.
Thanks.
Yeah, Greg, you should find that IRC thing.
You're not missing too much. It's been out for a long time. I didn't know that it's still around.